in fact going to be taking place right now. I'm joined by Harshit as we speak, and plenty of things to talk about going into this. We'll quickly run you through everything before we break into a bit of discussion. The breaking news: England have won the toss and they have opted to field first in Mumbai. And this, by the way, is the first match that will be taking place in Mumbai since the 2011 World Cup final. Quickly, I'll run you through some of the team changes that have happened, and believe you me when I say big changes from both sides. South Africa, there's no Temba Bavuma. He misses out due to an illness. So Risa Hendricks comes in. That's the only change. England have made three changes.
As expected.
Ben Stokes is back, and they've dropped two of their underperforming bowling all-rounders in Chris Wokes and Sam Curran. In come David Willey and Gus Atkinson.
A debut for him.
A World Cup debut for him.
A World Cup debut for him. We know he can really crank it up. So two bowlers there in Mark Wood and Gus Atkinson who can really crank it up. Even though the likes of Mark Wood have struggled, you know, that express pace, that X factor that you thought that he'd give hasn't really come to the fore, and England hasn't been helped much. But maybe the fact that there is going to be novelty, there is going to be that unknown factor about Gus Atkinson. We'll have to wait and see if he ends up making the difference. But we know that both these teams have, desperately are in need of 2 points. Both of these teams coming from rather defeats that both didn't see coming and are hurt and bruised right now.
And both, by the way, who are going to be playing in conditions that should, on paper, absolutely suit them. Mumbai is always known to be very, very batter friendly. At least in white ball cricket, you'll never see a spinning track. It's always going to be very true, very hard bounce. Maybe you'll get some assistance early on if you are a seamer. You'll get a little bit of movement. Beyond that, though, it remains a very true deck. Doesn't change much. And I think batting second, generally speaking, batting second, far better choice due to the very simple fact that dew does become a factor in Mumbai.
And now, you know, you're looking at, let's say, dew become a factor even in the northern belt. So you talk about, areas which are much closer to the coastal line. Then you will perhaps be looking at much more dew. Of course, Mumbai being close to the sea over there. So yeah, it's going to be breezy as well at this point. And of course, dew then later on coming into the picture as well. But talking more on the fact that you're playing at the 1K day, you do know that it can swing a bit at the start at the 1K day because of the breeze that you get there. And that's where, especially South Africa would be hoping that, they can avoid, because Willie, we know, can swing the ball a little bit, not so much Mark Wood.
Topley will be key, I think.
Topley will be key, and he, by the way, has looked one of the better bowlers, Reece Topley, much better than the others that he's been surrounded by. So the early spell from a South African perspective is something that, I would be wary of. I'd want to just not take any chances, let's say, to begin with, play safe. But it's 1K day after all, and you expect runs at the 1K day. So once you get your time in, once you set yourself over there in the middle, you really can play all the shots that you feel like, because 55, 58 square meter boundaries over there, you back yourself to clear that boundary on most days. You're going to be in for plenty of runs, and now you're seeing suddenly there be a lot of high scoring matches as well. Yesterday we saw in excess of 600 runs being scored. Today as well, expect nothing different given the fact that both teams are filled with firepower.
Exactly. And in fact, I think, that one change which South Africa made, and this might sound a bit mean, but considering the fact that Risa Hendricks, much harder hitter than someone like a Bavuma, might actually be a benefit for them. And Bavuma, by the way, my first thought, and I was like, oh no, South Africa have dropped their captain. That was my first thought. Then I saw that no, it was Markram saying that he's ill. So that's why he misses out. Unfortunate for Hendricks, really, that he's also been on the bench, because he's had some good performances in recent times. And even Markram admits, kind of been knocking on the door. He gets that opportunity. Him and Quinton, on paper, it's a very, very good firepower based, let's say, opening lineup. We know their middle order is also phenomenal. You've got Rassie van der Dersen, Markram, Miller, Klaassen. That's a lot of firepower in the batting lineup. But I think with South Africa, they've not really had to make much in the way of changes. England, by the way, three major changes at a time, and one of them was expected. We knew
Stokes is coming in.
Exactly. It was just a matter of who he was coming in for. I thought it would be Brook. However, Brooks starts and they've dropped Liam Livingston. I think because they figure they don't need a third spinning option on this track.
Even though, you know, when so it was just a couple of days back that Chin and I were talking about this subject as to what that likely change could be when you're talking of bringing in Ben Stokes, and you were looking. Livingston was one of the players we were looking at. It was, let's say, between Malan, Livingston that we were looking at.
But Malan, I don't think could be dropped.
Exactly. But it's also going to be tough because you had things to say for both the players. With Livingston, you get that you know, he's also underperformed. He's been under par this whole tournament. But then he gives you that leg spinning option. Joe Root was obviously not going to be in this conversation because he's now bowling about 5-6 overs for you minimum, and that's going to be the thing. Perhaps maybe not be the thing actually in this game because you're looking at the 1K as flat a deck as it gets on most days. But if need be, if at times as a captain you want to turn to somebody who doesn't bowl that regularly, is probably the most unlikely figure, let's say, to get you a wicket. It is mostly that person, that bowler who gets you there. And Joe Root has in fact become that figure for England that the captain can turn to him, ask him to just roll his arm over, and he's been very effective. Joe Root
Especially
as
in
well.
Test cricket. Especially in Test cricket, he's been, I think, their go-to bowler at times. In fact, I remember even during the Ashes, often they're not only playing one spinner, and he was having to fulfill the role of that second spinner. There were times where he was bowling 8, 9, 10 overs on the trot. True. And this is, by the way, someone who was seen as a part-time bowler at best, but has turned very efficient. The other changes, though, I think are more significant worth discussing because, again, if you look at the T20 World Cup of 2022, which England won, there were two players who were very, very key with the ball. One was Chris Woakes, who would get you early breakthroughs. The other was Sam Curran, who was your death over specialist. Both have inconceivably struggled at this World Cup, and now both find themselves on the bench.
See, as England, you had to take a tough call.
Exactly.
And you realize that, you know, for some reason, Sam Curran isn't the player that he was, let's say, about 4, 5 months, 6 months back. And the kind of consistency with which he was bowling, particularly at the death. And we've seen England concede a lot of runs towards the end. It all started, let's say, with that game against New Zealand when they didn't appear penetrative enough against Afghanistan. We all know what happened, and for some reason, you know, Sam Curran's totally, you know, lost his form, lost his touch. So this call had to be taken. What this does in some way is compromise the batting just a tad bit.
Yeah, that's batting till 7 now instead of 8.
8, yeah.
That's the only thing it compromises, but I think they've backed themselves to go in with that extra pacer, knowing that early on Wankhede you will get A, some movement, and B, that it's not going to be a track which is going to give any assistance after that.
True.
So you maybe go with the extra pure pacer in a Gus Atkinson because that's exactly what he is. He's a 150 plus bowler, someone who does add that X factor. And by the way, need I remind you that in 2019 England had two such bowlers. You had a Jofra Archer breathing fire, and you had Mark Wood being that support act. This year they've only had Wood, and Wood himself is underwhelmed. So you need a big performance from him as well.
Absolutely. He has whacked the ball a couple of times though, but that's not the skill set that you have him in the side for. You expect him to be, you know, getting his lines right. He struggled over there a bit, and yeah, just intimidate the batters is something that we've seen him do just so well over the years. So perhaps you know, if he can fix that bit, that can maybe just rattle the South African top order a bit, because the one thing that, you know, puts the two team together, or let's say that one thread that holds the two team together over here, is the fact that both have firepower. Both teams have the muscle to chase down any given target on a day. Even though South Africa have been asked to bat first, they do have the side, I believe, if they can play sensibly, which they didn't do in the previous match against the Netherlands. If, let's say, David Miller can hold on to his instinct a little more, if Klaasen can, you know, stick in there for a longer time, if all of those things can happen, then this side has the firepower, has the muscle to be putting on a total somewhere close to a 380, 390. They definitely have the side. Remember, they've already done so, albeit that game against Sri Lanka in Delhi, 428 runs. That's a record in World Cup cricket. But this side, even though there is England right in front of them at the moment, they still have the firepower, I believe, to put in a total like 380, 390. And I think for teams like England, the one way on flat decks that you can, let's say, unnerve them a bit has to be a high total that does definitely mean for for the other side, for England over here, that they need to start operating in fourth gear, fifth gear from the word go. Yes, we know with England the thing is they will punish the loose balls, but when asked to necessarily go, just go for the big shots, it can be a bit of an ask from the best of teams as well at times.
Yeah, the other factor, and I think it's worth noting, is that why South Africa would want to actually keep a high target. One, to put pressure on England. The other is to give their bowlers some leeway, because the current bowling lineup has been on the expensive side. Lest we forget, they even gave away 300 plus runs against Sri Lanka, which was not really expected. You thought they'd bundle out Sri Lanka, no problems. But see, with Lungi Ngidi, you know what you're getting. Wicket taker, yes, will also go for plenty of runs. Rabada has been hit and miss in recent times. I think has only recently started finding some form. Thereafter, if you're looking at it, Gerald Coetzee, same, gets you wickets, can be expensive. So actually, if you're looking at it, they have two such bowlers, and I think they want to give as much of a buffer as possible on a ground where not only the dimensions aren't that big in terms of the boundaries, but also you're getting a phenomenal pitch to bat on. You need to be targeting, I think 370, 380 is the bare minimum any of these sides needs to get to be in this game.
And it'll be an absolute cracker, I can tell you. If South Africa, rather England, if they do manage to put in that kind of a total here, then yeah, you are looking at a cracker of a match, because you see both teams competing toe to toe in some way, and that's more so with the bat than the ball, that I see two teams being very similar to each other. But just to take this conversation forward, Shane, if we are to talk about, let's say, one player in the batting department and one in the bowling that holds the key for both the sides, let's just start with England first. Who would that player be for you?
I think for England, they'll need a big performance, and I know no pressure, but Ben Stokes.
Ben Stokes.
He needs to do something special because this team really needs it. Of course, if that, and that's an easy answer, I'll go with Johnny Bairstow. I think he's due a big knock. One of the key reasons why England looked so good in 2019 were those flyers that Bairstow and Jason Roy would get them off to. I think Johnny Bairstow needs a big performance, because otherwise the weight of that opening partnership at this point is being carried by Malan. That's what the bat. For the bowlers, I think you need something exceptional from Mark Wood. Wood definitely. I think he would be the key for England. South Africa, if you're looking at it, I think they'd want to see a Quinton de Kock special. Don't forget, de Kock is someone who knows this ground only too well. He's won titles with Mumbai Indians on this very ground. It's a kind of ground that's suited to his kind of style, big hitter, stroke maker, someone who can clear the boundary with ease of small boundaries. I think if de Kock gets a big knock, then they're in for a good, let's say, total. And with the ball, I think, and this is, again, just speculative, Marco Jansen. He's also struggled a tad.
Like you said for Mark Wood, I think the same applies for Jansen as well. He's also due a big performance that's been missing till now.
Absolutely. Now, what about you? Who do you think would be those key players?
Let me go with South Africa first, since they'll be the team batting first. I think over here, I think Klaasen could perhaps hold the key here. He acts as a perfect bridge, I think, between the top order and, let's say, the lower middle order. He's strung the two, the two factions, as I'd say, very, very well. I think today as well, when you'll be going for your shots, and Klaasen, let's not forget, is also very much capable of clearing the boundary and playing those big knocks. Klaasen, I think, because you're looking at going above 350, you'll need somebody to stay on there even after, let's say, scoring 100. I expect that. The thing with Quinton is I'm not too sure if he can really convert it into, because he'll then be going left, right, and center after the bowlers. With Klaasen, you expect him to just be there for a little longer. So Klaasen, I think, with the bat for me. As far as bowling's concerned, the fact that you see pace getting a little more support over here, I think Kagiso Rabada will really hold the key here, and he's the most experienced bowler of the lot. Let's not forget, there is no Nokia, as we know. Even if Nokia was there, Rabada would still have been the leader of this pace bowling attack. I think a lot depends on how he bowls today and sets the tone there for South Africa when they come out to bowl.
And what about for England? If you're looking at their batting and bowling, that one player who really needs this to stand up, convert their, let's say, reverse their fortunes.
England, I'm not going to be expecting a lot from Ben Stokes today. just not, let's say, I've seen him at the moment to be able to, call it that Stokes will be that guy. Given what we've seen, I think. I don't know. I think the fact that the surface in Mumbai is mostly true. Maybe Joe Root. Maybe Joe Root. He's really taken me. I'd say me by surprise, and I think everyone with the fact that inside the first 6 balls that he plays, he'll do the reverse sweep and reverse paddle and whatnot. Reverse ramp also he's tried at times. So I think again, I look at more, let's say, the fact that he can really be very very sensible in tough situations, which is why, like I said, Klaassen over there for South Africa. I think the key over here for England would be Joe Root with the bat. With the ball, I think I'd also go with Mark Wood. Again, has the potential, has really troubled sides in the past, will have to do so today. Remember, England cannot afford to slip up anymore. They've already lost 2 of their 3 matches. They really need a win here. So do South Africa. They've also lost 1. Perhaps they've got room for another, but South Africa will not take the reigning champions any easily, or they won't be taking them lightly, for the simple reason that they know that they've got tougher opponents also lined up. South Africa, they're yet to play India, let's not forget. So there are tougher fixtures in the offing for South Africa, which is why ultimately, yes, you'll have one team win and the other lose. But if you are to, let's say, in fact, talk about the result of the match, let's also talk about predictions here. And I'll put you in the spot first.
Ooh, this is a tough one to predict for one very simple reason. I do see the batters having a field day today. I think so. Okay, here's my prediction. I think South Africa get about 340.
Okay.
But I do see England chasing that down. It will ease out a little bit under lights.
I think as far as the results concerned, I think I'll agree with you. But target, I think over here you can expect South Africa to go, let's say, 366. I'll go with 366. But England, I think, look a little more fired up at the moment, because they're more hurt. They're more hurt right now. So perhaps I expect them to come hard at South Africa today.
Right, so that's how we feel, by the way. We'll just take a couple of comments. There's Singularity. Says, come on, England, may the blessings of Ma Durga be with you. Considering the fact that Durga Puja has entered its prime time and I'm kind of having a bit of FOMO, wholeheartedly agree with your comment, Singularity. That's correct. Let's see, there's one from Tex also, if I'm not wrong. England-South Africa is an underrated rivalry. He's spot on. It is a good rivalry. And yes, he's right. South Africa, yes, they've scored 438 here, which is the record for the highest ever ODI score in India. Remember, they came 10 runs away from breaking it in Delhi, of all places. Wouldn't really be surprised if they can go on to do the same here as well.
Yeah. So then, thank you so much. We'll take your leave at the moment. We're just about a couple of minutes away from the first ball being bowled. Enjoy the action, but don't miss out on the Sports Today coverage. We will be back at the mid-inning stage as well. Also, later on as the match progresses, if there's anything in due course worth letting you guys know about, we will be the first ones in our endeavor to keep you updated with everything happening in the world of sport. For now, we'll take your leave. Thank you. Bye-bye. Take good care.